Hello and welcome to this new edition of Global Voices of Accessible Travel. I'm your host, Laurent, the co-owner of Tapooz Travel. We are an accessible travel company based in San Francisco, California. Today we're going to Paris, one of my favorite cities in the whole world and where I grew up. We are going to talk with Marie-Odile Vincent. Now, Marie-Odile is probably one of the best known figures in accessible travel in France. Not only is she consulting for one of the largest travel companies in the country, as a wheelchair user, she's also a tireless advocate for accessibility, giving interviews, writing articles, appearing in television programs, and overall leading by example what an accessible, active life can be. Marie-Odile is truly a world traveler, and there is hardly any country that she has not visited. We've known each other for quite some time, and we had the pleasure of organizing a trip for her and a companion throughout the American Southwest just a few years ago, largely based on our tour of the native lands. I will post all this information at the end of the interview. So let's go and meet Marie-Odile Vincent and talk about her personal and professional experience in this age of the
Odile Vincent,
pandemic.
quel plaisir de te voir. Comment vas-tu?
Je vais très bien, mais tu me parles en français?
Je le sais parfaitement, c'est pour avoir ton beau sourire. And then we're going to switch to English. But
Oh,
I needed to inject a little bit of French flavor to this interview.
okay, I send you many French, good sense and bien and so on.
Well, it's a pleasure to see you.
Mm.
So, how about, I've introduced you in the segment just before the interview in a very general manner. How about you take a minute to introduce yourself, tell us who you are, what you do. You're in Paris. Give us a flavor of what's going on today, current affairs in Paris.
Okay, we have been locked down from now 3 months, and it's just the beginning of freedom for French people. And at the same time, it's like summertime, so people are very exciting to be able to move, to go in the garden tomorrow morning. Restaurants with terrace are going to open again. So they are really exciting and you feel that in the air.
So
So
is Paris reopened for business per se, for Parisians and everybody
Paris
else
is,
in the world?
yes, slowly, of course, step by step, it's going to open business and to open economics uh, environment, not in tourism, of course, even if tourism is working, because those people who were supposed to travel now will travel later. So you have always many things, and you don't have to be completely cut of what you did before and what you are doing now and what you will be able to do later. So we feel something very optimistic and positive in the air, and that's important.
Oh,
And
that,
maybe also the fear uh, that was us during all these months is going down now,
I see.
maybe.
I
Mhm.
see. Well, we're going to talk a lot about, accessible tourism, accessible travel in France. But before we do
You
that,
know,
just as a way to introduce.
we're talking to you because you truly are an expert in accessible travel. You consult for one of the major companies in France about their accessible travel arrangements for your clients. Um, and it's important for us, I think, look, talking to you, to have a sense of your perspective, both as a travel professional, but also as a wheelchair user, about current affairs, if you will, in France, in Paris, in France, for tourism, and maybe some forecasts for the future. How do you think the pandemic is going to influence our world of accessible travel?
Maybe there are two steps. The steps we are living now, just after the lockdown, where maybe it will be a summer. How could I qualify it? It will be a summer of loyalty. I mean that people will go to destination they already know, so they are not going so far and too far. Even it's because the borders are going to be open slowly in Europe. So they are going to stay in Europe and certainly in France for mostly of them. Okay?
That's a very good point. Yes.
That is the first step. After, it will change things maybe, and it will be good for you and for me, for inclusive and for the this accessible tourism we working on together. But it will be as if we are going to see a slow tourism, you know, the slow fashion. It doesn't mean it's not rapid. It means that it caters to many issues, the environmental issues. We have to think how we are going to travel tomorrow. Maybe it will be the way our people are going to travel more individual. Massive tourism is going down, I think so. But it's not only the COVID. It's
Of
because
course.
if you see Venice in Italy,
Yeah.
they already say they don't want too many people at the same time. We have to protect the environment. We have to protect people to take care of the people who host us. And it will, something new is going to be in our business,
Sure.
in your business, in my business, all around the world. It will not be the same. I think so.
That's a very, very relevant point you're raising, because I have to tell you from a number of discussions that we have here with travel professionals in the US and Canada and Australia. um, there is maybe a misplaced sense of optimism that things will go back to normal. You know, things will go back to where they were before. And I have to
Sure.
tell you, from my perspective, working very closely with our clients, like you do,
Mhm.
we hear a different story. We hear, like, as you said, people are going to travel to places where they're going to feel safe. Um, they're going to be feeling confidence that they're not going to get sick. So they're going to look at, the protocols in place for sanitations of the hotel rooms and transportation, what have you. But I think you're right. Above and beyond that, I think we are going to see some change in the psyche of
Yes,
travelers. I don't think we're going to see large group travel for a while. I think we're going to see more and more individuals, families.
I'm
Um,
sure of that. I'm
yeah,
sure of that. And it will not be the quantities, but it will be a question of a matter of quality now.
let me jump right into that, because this is an ongoing conversation that I had again recently with many of my colleagues overseas and here in the US. We do see a trend coming from requests, from clients, from travelers. Okay, we're not going to travel tomorrow or next week, or we're going to travel only when we feel it's safe. But
Mhm.
can you advise us on a different style of travel that we were used to? Instead of going to your typical New York vacation, when you are basically in a hotel, and then
Yes,
you visit the city, and it's very busy, and a lot of people are not going to do that for a while until they feel it's safe. But can you organize, please, maybe a road trip for my family? Can I rent an accessible minivan, like you did in
yes,
the US not too long ago?
yes.
Can we even rent some kind of a RV, and then we can travel? We have more control on what we do, where we go, how we travel. Do you think this is something that is going to happen also
I
for French
think it's the
travelers?
same. Even if I'm used to work in this kind of environment for individual people, I think it will be the trains. And maybe it's because this event we live collectively all around the world make us aware that we are fragile. So we want to be maybe closer to our family, our friends, little group, not to be an anonymous around the world, not to be only assist, you know what I mean, but to
Sure.
be responsible and maybe to do the better choice to be in harmony.
I think that's a very, very good point. Uh,
I think so. I think that we are going to be more in the service and in the quality of services.
sure. No,
And that's
I
very
agree.
good for disabled travelers
Of
because
course.
we are already in this way of living, way of working, way of needs, you know. So
So
I'm
let's
sure
that,
it will be a
that no,
positive,
let,
something positive for us.
so let me ask you a couple maybe of more technical questions around that issue of taking control of your travel arrangement. So my first question: if you had a family today, in France, in Paris, saying, we would love
Yeah.
to rent an accessible camper or RV style and go on the road across Europe, assuming it's safe to travel, assuming you can cross the borders. Is that easy today
No,
for a
no,
family to rent
no,
a?
that's the point. That's
Okay.
the,
Uh-huh.
the, the, the real point. But you see also that this event for tourism show that we have the same, well, we have a parallel issue. In fact, tourism, tourism is depending on mobility. If we don't have any plane, we can't move, we can't travel around, and the first point is mobility.
Of
So
course.
it's the same for us, it's mobility. And maybe we see sometimes some action, some initiative, private initiative. We have a very interesting initiative in France from a startup whose name is Willy's, who allows the possibility, the ability to rent a car from personal to personal people who have a, an adapted van, an adapted car, and who don't use it every time and want to share it to. So it's a good point.
That's a very interesting thing. Yeah,
You
we
see
just
this kind of initiative, but
right,
it's not enough. One of
of
my
course.
points when I travel, it's not to find an accessible accommodation. It's not to find a way how I'm going to visit some monuments, but it's how I'm going to move
To
and
get
what
there.
I
You have to
appreciate.
get there to start with, of course. Exactly.
Sure,
Yeah, no,
sure.
absolutely. That's very interesting. I will be very, very interested in following up on this startup because we're starting to see some similar startups here in the US. Also, there's a company recently that, it's peer-to-peer
Yeah.
rental, kind of an Airbnb model. Now, I have a room I don't
Mhm.
use. Would you want to sleep in my room? I have a vehicle I don't use. Would like to use my vehicle. But having access to adapted vehicle through that peer-to-peer, which is within the community, which I think that's
Exactly.
the main point
The
here.
answer has to come from the community.
Exactly. I totally agree. I think this is a great point.
I will give you the address
Now,
of
please, by all means.
the
Um,
contact because I think that she wants, it's a young lady, and she wants to develop now
sure.
abroad, and
Absolutely.
it
Absolutely.
would be a very good. So we have, it's exactly what we say. It's uh, we have to be aware of all these little initiatives that people are going to develop, who becomes economic model from startup, from an individual, and to put them together in a kind of hub
Sure.
about inclusion, about accessibility, not about only disabled people, but to all those people who need a special service.
Of course, of course.
Mhm.
That's a very good point. The other technical point I wanted to raise with you again on the issue how to get from point A to point B. Uh, as you know yourself, air travel has never
Yes,
been easy or enjoyable for
sure,
anybody, let alone for a
sure.
wheelchair user. Um, in Europe, as opposed to maybe the US, you have a well-developed railway system.
Yes.
Um, do you see that as a good alternative for travel within Europe, within continental Europe? You still have to fly to other destination, but within Europe, do you think that railway travel is gonna be favored
Mm,
as opposed to
I
others?
use the railways when I'm going to London,
Hmm.
of course, Eurostar. I'm kind use it when I go to south of France. when I come from Paris to go to south of France, if I take my car, I will drive during 8, 9 hours. So it's not really now rentable. And maybe sometimes the train, the railway can be an opportunity. And I think it will change also because for the little distance, or not so long distance, people are going to use more and more the train.
Sure. I no that's what I thought would be your answer. I got to tell you, we're kind of jealous here on the west coast of the U.S. The fact that you have such a well-developed railway system. When we travel to Europe,
Yes,
we
but
use the
but
train all
it's
the
not
time.
an answer to everything, you know. If
Sure.
you take a plane, if you go by train, you need at the end or at the beginning a car, a van, a vehicle
Of
to
course.
to move.
Of
So
course.
it's just a link, a new way to adopt for short distances, for going to,
Sure.
but from in your country to one town to another town, but not it's not a complete answer.
Of course.
Mm-mm.
So, we could talk for hours and hours about the technicalities of how to travel, but
Sure.
I want to come back to the issue that we're all facing in the world today. Again, the pandemic, and hopefully we're starting to see a solution, that the medical solution to the virus. But Europe is, as you know, I'm reading all the newspapers like you do and following up, and then all the countries of Europe now are kind of eager to say, that's it, we are officially reopening on June 3rd or June the 15th, and so on and so forth. And
Okay.
it's encouraging. It's confusing also. We're starting to see also trends of countries that are kind of getting together and say, okay, between you, and you, we can we can open the borders. If you are not within that bubble and you come in, you have to go through 14 days quarantine. What's going on in France in in that respect?
Um, in France, uh, I don't know. I think there is no interdiction. No country is forbidden. No, everybody can come, but it's going slowly. And I'm sure this this matters will not exist so longer
Right.
because many countries are aware that they need tourism economy.
Of course. I
They
think
live
we all
from.
suffering,
But
of course.
some country like Greece were not so affected by the COVID, so they try to protect themselves, and that's the first answer when you have such an event.
They try to protect themselves by limiting the people visiting
Sure,
Greece.
sure.
Very interesting. Very
Mm-mm.
interesting. I had a conversation just a few days ago with our colleagues in Portugal,
Yes,
and Portugal has done quite well altogether in addressing the medical and the health issues of the pandemic. And during the conversation, my colleague raised some issues, which again, we're not completely aware of what's going on in other parts of the world because sitting in the US, that's why it's important we're talking to. He says something to the effect that in Portugal, we've been doing quite well. I mean, the country altogether is pretty open. We're following the protocols and social distancing and the mask, but we have a very strong medical system, which enabled
mm-hmm.
us really to face the crisis. And he
Yes,
said one of the concerns that we had and still have are people coming from other countries into Portugal and bringing with them the disease, countries that may not have the same robust medical system. I said, what are you talking about? He said, well, Spain is next door to us. And Spain
yes,
has been deeply
yes.
affected by the pandemic. And
Italia, Spain,
yeah, yeah.
France.
And they said at some point they were concerned about Spanish people or tourists that were in Spain coming into Portugal because they were fearing the situation
Yes,
in
but
Spain.
for me, it's the situation for summer, you know.
Right.
It will not last too longer. I don't think so. Maybe people want to protect their population, government want to protect, and that's quite normal. And we need this exchange
Of
between us.
course.
We need this economic model we've got. But maybe it's good to take time to know how we are going to use it now.
Of
You know,
course.
what are you going of that? If we
So,
want to, we know why the COVID come.
right.
Environment destroy forest. You see the fire in California. You see all these catastrophic events that happened these last years, and maybe we have to think about before going too fast in a positive way or in an economic. No, we have to change something, and it will take time, and we have to readapt and rehabilitate all what we
No, yeah, I
destroyed
agree.
one time.
I agree with you that this pandemic, it's obviously it's so sad to see how many people died from the virus, but on the flip side, it may be a waking up call, as we say here, a waking up call that maybe we could change a few things to make
Yes,
life and communities better.
and also our medical systems,
Of course. So,
how people can face and cure themselves. There is not only the COVID. The COVID is the example.
of
You
course,
know, so many others before, so many others no so powerful, no so difficult, but we have to face to that.
of course. Um, the are there the protocol for of behavior, if you will, the wearing the mask in public, social distancing, sanitation, are those really enforced in France
Yes,
nowadays?
yes, yes. We have to wear mask when we are not outside, but when we go to shopping,
Uh-huh.
we have to wash our hands. But maybe it's basic. Some
Of
people
course,
didn't do that before, and it's one of the problem of the situation today. So when you are in your car, when you are outside, you don't have to wear mask. When you are in a shop, when you are with other people, you have to take distance, 1 meter distance before two people, between two people, sorry. The restaurant, only those who have a terrace are going to open tomorrow morning. Um, that's it.
I see. But again, coming back to Paris as one of the primary tourism destination in the
Yes.
world.
Mhm.
Um, I'm assuming the Louvre, for example, is going to reopen. In just a regular day, the Louvre is an incredible place to visit, but it's always
Yes,
very busy. You always have to get in line with a million people, and if there is
yes,
an
yes, yes, yes.
so what's going to happen with that? Are you going to allow less people into the galleries?
No, and also for now, only little museum are going to open, but with no many people inside.
I
And
see.
I think that we are going to learn by walking, with this new way of behave. And if things are going well, I think that the many many new museum, theater, exhibition are going to open, and because many people are living of that.
I
So
see.
tourism, culture, it's a hard problem for all those people who are working in these domains.
Of course.
Mm-mm.
I'm gonna ask you a general question, maybe a personal one after that. So the general question is,
Let's
uh,
go.
the general question is, for travelers, that what we hear the feedback is, of course we want to travel. Of course, traveling it's not a luxury. Traveling is part of the human life experience, and maybe especially for a wheelchair user or a person with disability, this is so much an integral part of the quality of life. So of course we want to travel, but we're not going to travel before we feel safe. And then we talk about the milestone.
I
What?
don't know. I don't know what does it mean to be safe, because you have
Exactly. Yeah.
you can have a climate change.
Yes.
See when you have a volcanic eruption.
Right.
See when you have many rains in a country. See,
So that was a general question. No, each of us will define, each traveler can define for themselves what they consider to be the milestones of when it is safe for me to travel. It might be different for different people. You know, again, I was talking with my colleague in Australia not too long ago. Her
yeah.
milestones actually are filtered through the need of her son, who's a wheelchair user. So, you know, she will not travel until she is assured that her son will be safe in what he needs. So each of us has a way to define that for themselves. So now the personal question, what are going to be your criteria, your milestone for where you're going to feel confident and safe to travel again? Number one. Number two,
Ah, yes. Okay.
where are you going first? You know, as soon as you say, that's it, I'm back to travel, what is your top of the list destination?
Oh la la, you're cruel with me, because when you love traveling, you don't have this kind of choice. Of course, I have a country in which I feel so well, but because I met people, it's not the country, it's what I live in this country that represents. So I'm not able to. I love. Of course, I'm frustrated at that time because I can't travel, but I'm able tomorrow to travel in Italy, and because I love art, I love the travel we did together when I came in the United States, because I love road movies. I love to cross around the fantastic countryside. I love to see luxuriant vegetation. I love to meet Indian people. I love to no. I will travel like I did, you know. And if I don't do that, it will mean that I'm not able to go on
Of
with
course,
tourism. No reason for that.
of
But
course.
okay, my favorite way of travel is to to have this kind of road movie travels. I love Namibia. I love the southwest of America. I did with you. I love Brazil. I love all those countries where you mix culture, where people are going to be always in relation, and you have to discover and to give them more. No, it's not possible for me to choose.
This is,
Anytime, anywhere, Laurent.
you know, this is so beautiful. On a personal level, you know, I appreciate our friendship and appreciate what you said. I think I'm going to take that clip from the interview, just the last 2 minutes, and I'm gonna make something. I'm gonna make a, you know, public announcement out of it, because this is so inspiring. You know, we have a saying, you know,
Of course,
the world is your oyster, and that truly is the case. And I think this
of
is
course.
something that,
If I do not travel, I do not suffer, because I have many souvenirs, etc. I'm always, I say, wow, how can you tell me that? When I come back from a travel, people around me say, so what's next? And I say, I don't know. When I travel, my travels stay in me during 2 months after my travel. It's going to nourish me, to feed me of many things. So I do not project. I love this kind of being during this time, because we have to react and to act day by day. And it was easier. It was, you feel quieter, you feel more calm. You know what I mean?
oh, absolutely, absolutely.
But tomorrow you say, you come, I come. You know what? That's the same.
it's
Of
it's
course,
it's an open invitation. Come and visit
it's
us
an
in San
open
Francisco.
invitation. It's a French invitation. Yes, of course.
Of
I'm
course.
ready. I'm ready to go, and we need that. We
That's
need
that's great.
to feed each other. It's
Of course.
important.
Of course. Well, those are inspiring words in these, weird and very uncertain times, and I truly appreciate those. Not just as a professional to professional, but also on a human basis. Your words are really inspiring. I thank you for that.
Yes, but tourism is my life.
Of
It's
course,
part of me. It's part of my skin. And what a good initiative you have
of
with
course.
this, with all these videos. It's passionate. It's really very interesting. Go on, Laurent. A very good idea. You
Thank
show the
you.
new road. You know, you create something with that. You take benefit of
Of
the
course.
situation of this event to put us together, close together, and to exchange, to be also very constructive, to go ahead. Thank you so much.
Thank you to you. I appreciate
Namaste.
that.
So thank
Thank
you
you.
so much for this
Thank
beautiful
you.
comment.
So listen, we're coming up on actually more than a half hour that I promised not to go too much over. It's almost
Yes, but
it's
next time it will be with a glass of wine.
oh,
Okay?
absolutely, absolutely. But again, it's nighttime now in Paris, so I want to thank you for taking the time to talk to us.
It's
Thank you
me.
so
Really,
much.
thank you. Thank you for this time, for this interview, for this moment.
Thank you.
We have so many to share, and really, my message is being positive.
Absolutely. And on that
We
note, again, I thank you. And it is a working process. The pandemic is not over. We are moving forward. And I will take the liberty to reconnect with you, maybe in a couple of weeks and a month to see where we are.
with a
Things are
great
going to
pleasure.
change. All right. Thank you so much, Marie-Odile. It was a
Thank you,
pleasure as
Laurent.
always. Bonsoir. Merci
Bonsoir.
encore. Et
Merci.
un verre de vin.
Sorry for my English.
No, your English was perfect. Thank you so much. Until next time. Bye-bye.
See you. Bye bye from Paris. Thank you,
Bye-bye.
Laurent. Have a good
Bye-bye.
day. Thank you. Take care.
Thank you.